Hi, my name is Madison Miner, and I'm back with Say What podcast with Protect Our Kids. Today, I'm going to have an interview with a gentleman that is not only one of our amazing sheriffs in Riverside County, Sheriff Chad Bianco, but he is also running for governor of California. He is going to have issues going from skyrocketing gas prices to unregulated sober living homes, from abortion, tourism, and vaccine mandates. He has a lot to fix in California. So let's get started right away. Chad, welcome to our show. Thank you, Sheriff Bianco, for being here.
Thank you very much. I'm very excited and honored to be here.
Wonderful. So not to start off on the most pressing question that I had, I had a bunch of moms that I'm kind of organized with that I talk to on a regular basis, and they did have a couple questions that they wanted me to ask. So we're going to start off kind of on a more difficult question. On June 2nd, 2020, you knelt in solidarity with protesters to the George Floyd demonstrations. Can you walk us through your decision that day, please?
Sure. I've said this numerous times, and unfortunately, we have to. What I hope can happen with people, especially that have seen either the news or what is even worse is the paid for negative campaigning that's going on right now by, unfortunately, Republican candidates.
Take a knee! 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 Look it up! Look it up! Look it up! Look it up! We're not even taking a knee with you. We're not even taking a knee with you. That's how you know. That's how you know. Take a knee! Take a knee! Take a knee!
And so what I want to start with is by saying, number one, and then I'll explain, is I absolutely did not kneel with BLM or for BLM. Let me explain it now by this way. I am, by all accounts, one of the most respected law enforcement leaders in the country, and most definitely here in California, and without a doubt in Riverside County, the Inland Empire, and most importantly for me, in my agency. I'm highly respected by my deputies and as a leader. And you have to sit back and realize that is absolutely impossible. It would not be reality if I knelt to a domestic terrorist organization that hates law enforcement. And the sad part is leading up to that, I was one of the most vocal people against what was happening, and there truly was people that were kneeling for BLM and all of that, all of those things that were going on. And I guess the good thing for me in law enforcement and how it spread so fast and not to the public is that I had 900 deputies that were there that know exactly what happened and exactly how that happened and what it was. And so in the law enforcement world, that spread rather quickly about after the news comes out. So the news had a narrative. The news had a narrative of wanting me to have knelt with any law enforcement officer kneeling for BLM and really succumbing to their desires and their whims and everything else. And that didn't happen. So leading up to that day, we had met with the organizers numerous times in my office, and every time that he left, one of the organizers that's there in the video, a lot of times you don't even see the whole video or the video that shows what actually happened. You see a little bit before, and then mostly you see way after that eliminates the beginning. But whenever he left my office, we would pray for a peaceful ending for this, because we knew it was not going to be. The entire country was burning. We were watching LA burn at the time, knowing that 2 days later and then 1 day later, they were going to be in Riverside County, and that I was going to be responsible for making sure that my downtown did not burn down. And so in the end, hindsight and everything else, that's always perfect. We can always run our lives in hindsight and say what we should have done and everything else. And unfortunately for this, and this is no disrespect for anybody, but it's very easy to sit in your home and watch on your phone or watch on your TV if you were watching live back then, or right now, 4 years later, watch a little video clip that someone wants you to watch, and you say, oh my God, how can he do that? Or why would he do that? Well, the reality is I didn't. And at that day, when we were getting ready to say, okay, you guys are getting out of hand, and now it's our turn, you had your time to protest, and we told you that as soon as it was starting to turn violent, we were going to end it. And now it's my turn, and I warned them that this is what's going to happen. And he offered to me, he said, well, will you pray with me for a peaceful ending to this? And I of course I will. And then he asked if other deputies would pray. Some of the deputies said no, they wouldn't, and some said that they would. And so one of the video that you'll never see, I mean, it's out there, but I mean, I have it. And then particularly the pictures is where we're actually praying. And we're actually, one of them, I believe, actually has his arm around me, and we're praying. That is not kneeling to BLM with everyone gloating around you and everything else, which were in all of the other videos. And then, but nobody's going to see that. That does not fit the narrative. And
no,
so
it doesn't.
So looking in hindsight, I probably do, and I will have to admit that we were played, and it was a setup, because as we're praying, they're all immediately gone, and then all that's left there is the news camera. And so the funny thing is, and this is probably where I did mess up, and but I don't care, and I don't even know if I would change it again, because the reality of that whole set of circumstances was, law enforcement is not the problem. We're doing everything we can to accommodate these protesters and make sure that they're safe from the violent ones that we knew were coming. And so it's certainly never in my life. I absolutely despise BLM. I certainly do not despise Black people or anything like that. So this whole racism thing about if you're not in support of BLM, you're a racist, that's a bunch of BS. Right. They are an absolute criminal organization, and they couldn't care less about Black lives. Right. It was about making them money, and it was about being on TV, and it was about an anti-law enforcement movement. So the funny thing about some of the people that are pushing this, and you all have to know that this is being completely paid for after I decided to. This happened 4 years ago. Yeah. And it's been a complete dead topic until I decide that I'm actually going to run, or even talking about running, and these other politicians know that I'm the person to beat. Democrats know I'm the person to beat, right. And Republicans know that I am the only one that has integrity and honesty to offer. So what they're trying to do is discredit my honesty and my integrity and my leadership ability by false narratives. And unfortunately for the right that's doing this isn't the left that's doing this, which was kind of a surprise to us. It's Republicans that are doing this. Right. It's to raise themselves up. But it's funny and ironic that for the last 8 years, we've been talking about fake media and don't believe the media, and the media lies, and you can't believe anything. But now all of a sudden we're supposed to believe the media. Right. And it's very unfortunate. I guess the only thing I can do and hope is that people realize that when two things don't go together, you can't take everything about my past, everything about me being sheriff, and everything that happened during the summer of love, during all of those protests, and how it happened in Riverside County, and what we did, and how truly I set the tone on how to deal with these protesters, and I stopped the rest of the country from burning. When people saw what we did to those protesters that night, and how fast we ended it, and how decisive we were in overpowering them, LA did the same thing the next night. Yeah. And so everybody started doing that. And when you put all of those things together, and you put together the fact that I am one of the most respected law enforcement leaders in the country, those don't go together. So you have to say, okay, well, something doesn't make sense. And if it doesn't make sense, maybe it isn't sensical. And right. I just have to hope that people believe that. I have my principles, I have my morals, I have my ethics. Most importantly, I have my honesty. I would never compromise any of those things. When I die, you may not like me for something else, but no one's ever going to be able to say that he lacked integrity, lacked honesty, lacked character, or he wasn't a good leader. I will always be that, because a leader cares more about other people than they care about themselves. The only thing that some of those things with the news media did say I mean, I interviewed the news when they came back and wanted to do it again, which was like 5-10 seconds after the initial incident actually ended. And I have a good relationship with reporters. The actual media can't stand me, and they fabricate things and they do everything. The editors and those types of print medias, but the reporters on scene and everything else, we have a great relationship with them because we have to. They're involved with us all the time. And when she came up and asked me and said, "I'm sorry, I missed that whole thing. Can you please do it again?" We did. And in hindsight, I probably shouldn't have. It would have been nice for me today to not have that on TV. But what I said was all real. We are here to make things better, and we are here. My job as a cop is not to be animosity toward one group or another. It's to make sure that everyone there is safe and can exercise their constitutional rights. So as much as I hate everything that they stood for, I had to make sure that they could do it, and had to make sure that it was peaceful, and that not only did the people that weren't necessarily violent protesters, that were just there because to tag along or because they believed in something, I had to protect them also.
Absolutely.
And then I had 1,000 cops that I was responsible for protecting. So you can see through the videos, I mean, the reality of where I was, 10,000 protesters in front of 1,000 cops, and I was in the middle. I was separating that line, and no one else did that. There were no other law enforcement leaders that did that, and it was my job to make sure that we did work together, and that we could. If they were going to protest, then we'll protest, and that's all fine. We don't have to agree, but we're going to do it legally and right, and we're going to protect everyone. And I think that in the end, that's what I did. And I don't ever want to say that in my life I've never regretted something, because I don't believe in regret. I think everything that is wrong you just learn from, and you learn it's an experience that you learn from, grow from, and it's part of your life. So I honestly, I don't think I would change anything. I think the only thing that would be different is maybe I shouldn't have ran for governor so they could use this against me in a dishonest way.
Well, don't go there. Don't go that far.
Yeah.
It sounds like instead of kneeling for a political movement, you were kneeling to Jesus for help in that moment. So I think that's a completely reasonable thing.
I've said this over and over again, and unfortunately, there may be some wives out there that don't agree with me, and mine's one of them. Is I am a complete believer in God, and God, I know that God is in 100% control of my life, and in my life and for the rest of my life, there's only one person or entity that I will ever kneel to, that I have ever knelt for, and that is my Lord. And unfortunately, that hurt my wife's feelings a little bit, because while I did truly love her and ask her to marry me and present that ring, I didn't do it on my knee, because that's my belief, is that your knee and is a solemn thing to God. I mean, there are other things that you can kneel for, but I'll kneel in remembrance, and I'll for those types of things, but certainly not for a person or a group. That's reserved for God, and that's what that was for.
Well, thank you. Thank you for answering that question with such transparency. I'm sure that's not been fun for you to have to answer over and over, but I do think that it's important, especially as a candidate, to continue to get the truth out there. And so however we can help here at Protect Our Kids to do that, we're going to make sure that this gets spread far and wide for you.
Yeah, if you I don't want it, just so I can finish on this, just because it's how you said it. I hope everyone is perfectly clear that for me in my life, my integrity is everything. And number one, for a law enforcement officer, that entails integrity is character and honesty. And be very, very transparent and honest. Coming into this, we assumed that we thought it was going to be the Democrat groups that would do this to rally against me and do this negative campaign, but it turns out to be Republicans. In the end, I mean, or they told me, they're like, the best thing for you to do would be to come out and say, oh, you did it, but you did it for these reasons. And I'm like, well, that would be lying. I'm not going to admit something that I didn't do. I'm not going to try and appease somebody just because something looks bad. And I think in the end, if I was a true politician, I would have lied in the very beginning and said and tried to come up with some excuse to try and lessen that. But I honestly, I don't care. If people don't believe me, then don't believe me. But the reality of my job throughout this campaign is I'm still the sheriff. I'm still a law enforcement officer. And one of the things that disqualifies me from my position that would make me lose my job is lying. If I lie, blatantly lie, and it's easy to prove that I lie, they can strip me of my ability to be a peace officer in California. And it's not going to happen. One thing from here on out, especially during this campaign, I'm not saying that all of the other ones are going to be lying, but if they're saying something different than I am, you can be assured that I'm the only one telling the truth, because my job depends on it, and their job or their future job that they hope to get requires them to lie about something to either appease a voter or a certain group they're talking to. So while this may look bad to me or for me in some circles, it's only if you don't believe me. And if you don't believe me, I mean, that's your prerogative. But for me, the truth never leaves me, and the truth's still the truth.
Yeah, and I think what you said makes complete sense. And I had heard that side of the story. I'm good friends with Sonia Shaw, and she had told me that. So really, this was another opportunity to get the truth out to folks that are going to be voting for you for governor. So I'm glad that that's been cleared up. So we've had a lot of fires in California. We've had a lot of issues with fires and with grids getting shut down. I'm not sure how much the grids were shut down in Riverside, but here in Orange County, we had a lot. I mean, I'm talking probably at least 4 or 5 times that the electricity was out for days on end in our communities. And that was really hard on a lot of folks. So many Californians are frustrated by the unelected boards, like the California Air Resources Board, pushing electric-only mandates. If elected, how would you handle the unchecked power of these NGO-influenced regulatory bodies?
Yeah, I'm going to start by saying that it's going to be very important for people to watch during this campaign of who is not in support of me, because it's going to be those organizations and those groups and those individuals who are benefiting from this absolute madness that truly is harming Californians. It's for their benefit. It's for their monetary benefit and their political clout and all of those things. And it's absolutely, it should be embarrassing to not only people, but to an actual government whose responsibility is supposed to be for its constituents, for its residents. And we have completely failed. California has completely failed. And when we're talking here about fires and electricity and everything else, they're really 2 independent issues. And they come together, unfortunately, because of what we saw and what's happening with fires and being started by down power lines and things like that. So, to the end of your question, these independent boards and these government appointed boards and everything else, it is very unfortunate of what has to happen in California, but we have to realize that every single aspect of California is broken except our weather, and we don't control our weather. But all of the rest
Sometimes.
of it is controlled by a government entity, by a board, a regulatory board, a decision-making board, something like that are appointed by the governor and by other government officials. They're appointed positions. And on day one, I already know who they are and what they represent, but I have the list of all of those positions. And on day one, they will all be replaced because they have failed us. And so when we're talking about the fires and the electrical stuff and everything else, 2 different aspects. The fires first, fires are not new, and wind is not new. We've had wind since the beginning of time, and we've had fires since the beginning of time. Fires are a natural occurrence in nature. The difference is the intensity and the damage caused by fires in recent years. And it's not because the winds are stronger. It's not because there's fires that were never fires. We actually have fire season, and we actually have all of these things. The difference is the amount of fuel that the fires have to grow with. And when the government has prevented that removal of the fuel by what the fire department, CAL FIRE, city fires, and all of those 8 entities that fight fires, when they want every year to be able to do controlled burns and to do clear outs and things like that, and they're prevented by government, you have to realize that this was all on purpose. This was all purposefully done to create these issues of this horrible impact so government can redo itself. And I'll give you a perfect example of this last one, and it's tragic what happened to all of those families. But 2 days after it happens, you have the governor online and on TV at a press conference doing a little jig about how excited he was. It was almost scary how excited he was that the entire city burned down, residences burned down, so they could remake LA 2.0, and he actually called it that.
We're already organizing a Marshall Plan. We already have a team of looking and reimagining LA 2.0, and we're making sure everyone's included, not just the folks on the coast, people here that were ravaged by this disaster.
And so you have to go back and say they knew this was coming. They didn't cause it. They didn't cause the fire. They enabled this fire to happen, knowing that it was going to cause major, major, major damage in these residential areas. And so take that aside. And so the first thing is all of those regulations will be removed the day I become governor. And the fire department, CAL FIRE and city fires, will begin to clear out these places, remove that brush, remove that fuel. So when we have these fires every single year, they are not going to grow to the size that they've been growing to in recent years. They've been getting historically worse, and we know they're going to keep getting worse until somebody does something about it. And that truly is only going to be me. And so that is number one. Number two is the part about the electricity. No one really understands the corruption between the electric company and the government and the money that they are all making. And it is an absolute disgrace that our electric companies are publicly traded companies, because their number one goal is not to provide you power. That's not their goal. Their goal is to make their shareholders money. And so what has happened over 100 years really is the complete decay of our electrical system in how that power is supplied to us. The power poles that are 100 years old that are just waiting for a wind to blow them over, a storm or anything like that. And it's because they don't repair them. They don't maintain the power lines on purpose, because that costs money and that loses money for shareholders, and it's at our expense. And then when the negligence is proven and these lawsuits are levied against the power company, it's the taxpayers that pay that money. We have to pay that. It is absolutely disgusting, and that it's got to change. It's got to change. Those people making these decisions will be removed, and we will put people in place that actually care about Californians and about making California better for our residents rather than making money for a special interest. It's a shame, and we're not ready to go to all electric power. I will say that I like the idea of an electric car, but I also know that electric cars are not feasible right now. They're cute, and you can have one and you can make it work, but you can't go on a cross country trip without without a gas-powered generator to make sure you don't break down.
You can't even drive to Vegas.
Absolutely right. So, for instance, when the entire country was horse-drawn carriages and the car came about, it was not the government saying you could no longer use your horses and your carriages, you have to use a car. That's not how American ingenuity and prosperity works. It was when it was available, and when the price became available, and now it was more efficient. There's gas stations everywhere, and now it was just better to have a gas-powered car and a car instead of a horse. Then everybody went to a car. Right. But it was the technology that made it possible. And so I'm a firm believer that within a few years, or 10 years, 15 years, maybe 20 years, we probably will be done with gas cars, and we will have something else. But they may not be electric. They may be hydrogen, or they may be something else. Elon is going to come up with something, and we'll be going for that will be effective for people. But right now, the best way to provide us power, the best way to provide us energy is fossil fuels and nuclear. And they are completely against both nuclear and fossil fuels because it goes against their green agenda, which is a complete scam and a way for them to launder money into government subsidized programs and friends and nonprofits and NGOs and those types of things. And we will
But then just donate their money back to them for their political campaigns.
That's right. And we're now learning that. I mean, you can assume it before and you're a conspiracy theorist if you talk about it, but now we actually know that our taxpayer money has been laundered into the campaign funds of leftist, anti-American, making things better for America entities and people that's been used against, it's being used against us now. Right. And we've got to make a change. What I have to offer California that nobody else is going to have to offer is 30 years of dedicated public service that my only goal is to make things better for my constituents. And no one can say anything different. Not only have I got 32 years of doing it in a public safety outward position, but now 2 terms as an elected official in one of the largest counties in the country. And there's nobody going to say, oh, look where he failed. Look what he didn't do. I'm the only one with a positive resume. I'm the only one going in there. And this is what hurts me sometimes, and it hurts my family. I'm sacrificing the best job in the world. The sheriff of Riverside County truly is the best job in the world. I'm going to sacrifice that. I'm going to sacrifice time away from my family. And during this campaign, the negativity that is being brought toward me and my family is sometimes overwhelming, especially knowing that it's all a lie. It's nothing that we did ourselves. It's a lie to make us look bad. And I am putting myself through that to make California better for us, to make California better for my grandkids. I have 4-year-old and 1-year-old grandkids that I know have a much worse life ahead of them than what I grew up with because of the failures of our government. And I want to do everything I can to change that.
Well, thank you. Thank you for this sacrifice, even just running. I know from my own experience how painful it can be for them to make up lies about your family and you. And you want to just scream, this is untruthful. But at the same time, you just plow forward and you keep in the direction of your candidacy, of ultimately of winning your position. So I know as a sheriff, you have seen firsthand safety issues that have to do with drugs and drug use and all of the drugs coming in from our borders. So what is your position on the state's funding of programs that distribute methadone, ketamine, clean needles, et cetera? And are we actually helping people, or are we just enabling the addictions?
Well, I think just the way you answer that question, and I guarantee you in your heart and in your mind, you already know the answer. Common sense tells you the answer. We are doing nothing but creating this problem. We have to realize that government is absolutely working against us for their own benefit. They are creating their own problems so they can come up with solutions during election time that those solutions never happen. You can't say you're going to fix homelessness if you're still fueling what keeps them homeless and what drives people into homelessness. You can't say you're going to fight drug addiction and drug use if you are enabling and fueling the drug addiction problem yourself. That is what is happening in California. And from a public safety perspective that I have dealt with for over 30 years, the government is creating, and enabling this problem so they can come to you and say, oh, look, I have a solution. They're dishonest. They're self-serving. I'll say it. I mean, this is a harsh word for people to hear. We use words that are a little bit less and politically conservative and say they're dishonest. They're absolute liars. And you can't have a legislature that is legalizing drug use, that is legalizing the issuance of all of these of narcotics and paraphernalia and places to go use it without law enforcement, consequences, and have all of these drug crimes and homeless crimes that are against our public safety and no consequence for any of them, and then say somehow you just need to be elected so you can dump more money into it to prevent it. All of of these things are going to stop. It is not a homeless problem. We are going to stop calling it a homeless problem. It doesn't have anything to do with homes. It has to do with drug addiction and drug-induced and alcohol-induced psychosis that is causing these people to want to be on the streets, to believe that the life that they are living while they're rotting in their own skin, that they are okay there. And it should be embarrassing to every single Californian, every single American who supports these ridiculous concepts and these ridiculous government-imposed ideas that throwing money at these problems and enabling them is going to help, because we are contributing to the decay of all of these people, and we're watching it happen. And we have to get them help. We have to get them sober. And so I'm definitely in favor of that. I'm not in favor of giving them homes, because they just want, I mean, is it a place to get out of the rain while they still do their drugs, while they still drink their alcohol, while they still go out and commit their crimes and everything else? That's really what happens.
Right.
And so we will stop doing that. We will stop the drug trade. We will stop the drug addiction, and we will try and get these people help only if they want it. That's the real elephant in the room, is it's all voluntary and they don't want help. They're not taking the help. We have to force them into rehab. We have to force them to get sober so they can realize, oh my gosh, what have I been doing for the last year or 10 years or 15 years? And then we can get them back into society where they were. They all had jobs. They all had families. They all had homes. They were kicked out of them because of their drug and alcohol abuse. And I truly will be the only person on this ballot that is not afraid of telling the truth. I'm not going to appease to far left people that believe that, oh, poor them, and we just need to give more of our taxpayer money to them. I'm not going to appease them. That's not the case. I mean, we've got to admit to reality, and we've got to admit to the truth and say, look, we've been doing this wrong for 30 years, and the numbers show it. I mean, it's a steady increase of all of these bad things that are happening while government is saying they're helping by giving money to people that aren't helping. It's kind of common sense. And the good thing about being the governor is I'm in charge of the budget. I decide where that money's going to go. The legislature has to approve it and all those things. That's all great. But the public's going to know that they're the ones refusing to approve my budget, which my budget is going to reflect our priorities of public safety, of infrastructure, and of education.
And I appreciate that. I think, you know, you kind of touched on it a little bit already, but even with the homelessness, that's very interconnected, I would say, with the drug abuse problem in California. And I know in Orange County, we have a homeless problem. And I imagine in Riverside, you have a homeless problem, which I'm sure you've tried to remedy. What have been your biggest roadblocks as Sheriff of Riverside to that problem? And you kind of said it already, but what would you do to remedy the issues going on with the homeless and drug problems going on, especially in your home county, but in the state of California?
Yeah, I think that my appeal and my fear factor of where people are afraid of me is that because I am just absolutely not afraid of telling the truth, whether it hurts me or whether it's not. I mean, the whole BLM thing, the truth actually hurts me because I'm not lying to try and cover up something that happened. I'm just telling the truth, and people don't believe it because of the clip that they saw. Well, I can't help that. But then everything else that happens, people are starving for the truth. They want someone to believe in, and the left and the right knows that that's who I am. And I have a platform to do it now. And as the governor, it will just amplify my platform of telling the truth. And so if the legislature, so right now, the thing that prevents me from doing all these things, from eliminating homeless, from eliminating crime or reducing crime or keeping people safe, is our governor and our legislature. That is what is preventing law enforcement from public safety and keeping us safe. The fire department, it is government, it's the governor, and it is the legislature preventing CAL FIRE from keeping us safe by clearing out these places. It is the government and the legislature who is raising the cost of living because all of the added fees and the added regulations that they're putting on all these things. So as the governor, I will be completely honest about this homeless situation that is not homeless, that it's a drug-induced psychosis. And I do believe that some of that money has to be there for those forced rehab courses and treatment centers. And it'll go back in time. It's not like I'm going to just round people up and throw them in a homeless, shelter or a rehab center. Take your pick. You're either going to go to jail or you can stay out of jail, but you're going to go into rehab.
Right.
And that used to be what it was. Before 2014, that's what the tools that we had in California. And our government took that away from us. And we've got to put it back. We've got to be able to say, you're breaking the law. We're going to save your life because you're killing yourself and you're a blight on society right now, and you're harming everybody else's free movement and their constitutional rights. So you're either going to jail for the crimes that you're committing, or we will let you stay out of jail, but you're going to go to rehab and you're going to get sober, and then you're going to be able to make better life choices and decisions. And that's all that needs to happen. And that's what I will be in favor of.
So when you kind of touched on that as well in that comment, sober living homes, they're popping up everywhere. We have a ton in Orange County. I live in a really nice neighborhood with lots of bedrooms in our homes. And so it seems like, especially in my city, that we have these sober living homes popping up everywhere, but there's no regulations, there's no rules, there's no laws behind them. What are you going to do to look at and fix the problem with sober living facilities?
Yeah, so here's the problem with everything, and it encompasses sober living facilities with me going into this office, why people are going to be against me going in there. Not only are you sending an ethical, moral, conservative Republican into government to fiscally manage a complete disaster, you're sending a lawman into Sacramento where I don't just see it as waste. My entire livelihood is crime and not crime. Is it illegal or is it not illegal? And I absolutely 100% will hold people accountable if just because, money got, I'll say, laundered over here. Was it illegal laundering or was it an illegal laundering? Was it done for nefarious reasons? And if it was, someone's going to be held criminally accountable, and you will go to jail. I'm a firm believer in punishment and accountability for you breaking the law, taking advantage of systems, embezzling, stealing, laundering, whatever you want to call it. There will be people held accountable. And I make it perfectly clear here. I'm not saying all when I use the word all. There are some sober living centers that are actually good, and they are doing everything that they can. But we have to start asking ourselves, why are there so many? Why are there so many of these centers popping up over and over and over and over again?
That's a great point.
The people that have them are making bank. They are rolling in the dough with government money that is just flowing into their nonprofits and their NGOs and all of these things, and there's zero accountability. And the problem that I have, the knowledge that I have, is that we have people that we're contacting on the street that are homeless, that are drug addicted, that we're offering to send to some of these facilities, and they tell us, please don't make me go there. There's more drugs there than out here on the street. It's hard to get drugs while you're homeless and you're on the street and you're living street, from day to day. It's easy to get drugs in some, not all, of these centers, and they don't care. The administrators of it don't care. They're making money on the back end, and there are legitimate people that know they need help and they can't go into these centers because the overwhelming ease of getting more of those drugs and the alcohol, they know they're going to be worse. They're not going to get better. And it's easier for them to even try, or if they want to try, to do it on the street. So it's got to end. There will be accountability for these places. And if you're going to get government money for these centers, you will have constantly reported status reports of your success stories. And if you're not successful, then you're not getting any more money. If you're not showing that you are helping this problem and this process, you will not be getting money. It's just not going to be blindly, you say you're going to help look, this sounds good, as we have all these homeless shelters. Well, the homeless shelters aren't really helping the homeless. They're enabling and sometimes making it worse. And we have to actually have oversight. And I say this in my line of work. The way you make a change, you absolutely must, human behavior, somebody has to be made an example of. And if the first sober living or homeless shelter or any other entity that we have that we make an example of and say these people laundered this money, they embezzled this money and used it for their own personal benefit, the first time that is making the news and somebody is held accountable and they go to jail or they go to prison or they have to pay it all back, that is going to send the message to everybody else that's operating those facilities and say, ooh, I guess this is off limits now. It's been okay because we've turned a blind eye for the last 20 years. But the day I take office, that stops. And if you're not going to stop it, then you're going to be held accountable for what your crimes against the taxpayers.
Yeah, and I think that's exactly what needs to happen. Better regulation, better policies, and better accountability. Because that's been, you can tell it's lacking because when you see these homes pop up, it's a little bit terrifying when they show up in your neighborhood. So a little less deep of a subject, but maybe more on a selfish note since I drive a large SUV. Gas prices and regulation overload. I know that gas prices here are among the highest in the entire nation. I can drive 4 hours to our neighbor of Arizona, which I go to often, and it's half the price.
Yeah.
What can you as governor do, and what would you be willing to do to help us Californians with that issue?
Number one, on day one, I will admit to the entire state that this is a government-imposed increase. This is government caused. You have the governor lying to the public and the media repeats it, saying that it's price gouging from the gas station owner and from the gas companies. It is a flat out lie. This is fees and regulation from inside California that is causing all of this to happen. It's fees on the refineries and regulation on the refineries that causes them to not be able to produce enough gas. It is the fees and the regulations on the imports. More importantly, California has more oil than anyone in the country. The government is refusing and preventing us from drilling for that oil and pumping out that oil and then giving it to the factories, to our own factories, to refine, to make to the gas, to keep the prices low. It's a punishment for drivers. So you go electric. This is all a scam. Everything is a government-imposed scam, and eventually we may have nuclear, hydrogen, or electric vehicles. But right now, we have the technology, we have the fossil fuels, unlimited supply of fossil fuels to make sure that our gas is cut in half. All of those things it's embarrassing that you can drive just across state lines and pay $2 or more per gallon less for gas than in California, where we have the refineries and we have all the oil. Makes absolutely no sense. Every single fee and every single regulated fee and increase in gas that is removable, and it's probably like $1.50, and it could even be up to $2, will be removed on day one of me taking office, just with the stroke of a pen, getting rid of it. And then we will force our legislature to make changes in the laws that will not allow this to happen in the future. And the special interests. I'm going to be special interests' absolute worst nightmare because I don't believe in special interests. Special interests are for a small group of people. I am going to be the governor, not for Democrats, not for Republicans, not for special interest groups. I will be the governor for Californians who want California to be better.
I love that. And a similar nonpartisan issue is our children and the schools. And, back when 2020 hit, I remember my first time speaking at a school board meeting because the idea of vaccine mandates was starting to come to the schedule. And so what will you do about the regulation of vaccine mandates for children, for all vaccines, but especially for the kids that are going to schools?
Yeah. So, number one, first and foremost, that's a parent's decision. That is a parent's decision on how they're going to not only raise their kids, but how they're going to feed their kids, how they're going to medicate their kids. That is our God-given right as a parent, and it is not up to a government to tell you otherwise. I want to make it perfectly clear: I am not anti-vaccine, but I certainly am anti-vaccine for me because I've learned enough and I know enough that we've been fed a lie for somebody else to make money. And I have to admit, the vaccines I got when I was a kid, I mean, what was it? They're like 6 mandated vaccines, and now
not what they are now.
yeah, now there's 60, and I am so, it frustrates me so much when particularly Democrats throw out this word, trust the science, and they'll cherry pick a doctor that's being paid millions to say something, but they disregard all of the other doctors that are saying, this is absolutely, there is a correlation between autism and vaccines. There is not even a correlation, it's caused. These drugs that we're pumping into our kids' bodies, it is a direct cause, and we know it. We know the numbers. We know all of these things that are happening. And if you choose that, if you choose to be, you want to be on the safe side and hope your kids never get these diseases, and you want to use that vaccine for that, knowing the risks, the informed consent, knowing what the possibilities are happening that could happen, and you choose that, well, that's your choice. But also, as a parent, I mean, for me, when my kids, there was no question that we were going to get our kids vaccinated. They only got a few vaccines. My grandchildren, I'm completely against all of these vaccines because they didn't exist back then. They're not proven effective. It's just forced way for somebody to make money off government subsidized programs and drugs and treatments and everything else. And we know that there is a problem with the health aspect and the dangers, and nobody's being able to make those choices for their own. The government is not only telling you you have to do it, but then they pass a law that you as a parent, after we were forced you to do something, you can't sue that drug company or the government for making you do something that caused these problems. It is asinine. It is absolutely ridiculous that will stop. I'm not against them if you choose them. I am against you not wanting them and choosing them and the government forcing you to do it. That will not happen. There will not be these mandates to get into school or to get into sports or to get into your home or anything else that we're really going to. I believe in parents having the right to raise their kids. And you kind of mentioned it, moms. I have to say that we are not in the position today were it not for moms and standing up for this absolute lunacy that began in 2020, and it really started with COVID and the lockdowns and the masks, and then the mandates of giving a shot and more immunizations and everything else. It was moms that stood up. It was when you start to attack a child, there is motherly instinct is by far stronger than fatherly instinct. And the mama bear mentality, that no one's ever called it the papa bear. It's
a little different. They sleep.
There is. I mean, the moms are there to protect their kids, and I have nothing but admiration and respect for all of the mothers who have stood up and now gone to school boards and now gone to medical boards and things like that. Or that they're trying to speak the truth for their kids, for the benefit of their kids. And I do not believe government should control our lives, and neither did our founding fathers. The government was supposed to add a benefit of protection and infrastructure and those types of issues for our people. It was not to run their lives. You pick anything that the government does, they don't do it better and they don't do it efficiently. There are just some things that are required. We have to protect our citizenry. We have to provide power and electricity and water and all of those things for our residents of whether it's a state, county, city, whatever it is. And we have to provide them education. We have to educate our kids, and we're completely failing in that aspect. We don't educate our kids anymore. We indoctrinate them into a political belief, and the proof is we are the absolute worst in educating our kids. And our school boards and our leaders of our school board, they tout and they're excited because they raised the percentage from 35 to 38% of the grade level kids we have in this state. That is a complete failure that they are celebrating, to say that we are failing 70% of our kids in educating them. It's embarrassing.
It is embarrassing. And you talked earlier about informed consent. Right now, Protect Our Kids is actually named in a brief, Mahmoud versus Taylor in the Supreme Court, where parents in Maryland were not given the opportunity of informed consent. They were not given the opportunity to opt their children out of sexually perverse books being read to their 5-year-olds in their classroom. In the same respect, there's been curriculum that's been inappropriate in California. I've seen it myself as a school board member. And so hopefully we also are able to take over the superintendent of schools for California position with Sonia Shaw up there working next to you. What will you do to help prosecute? You look at a corporation, and this is something that I think of all the time. If I were working in an office building and someone showed me a book of this nature and I went to HR, that's sexual harassment. So what are you going to do as governor to help regulate and prosecute these individuals who think that it's appropriate to give our kids sexually explicit information and to keep secrets from their parents?
Yeah, so we have a policy here. It's a zero tolerance policy, and we have already arrested school administrators and officials for failing to protect our kids. And that mentality will be taken to the state and enforced throughout the state. The greatest thing that we can do for our education system right now is elect Sonia Shaw to the position that she's going for and let her lead how we educate our kids instead of indoctrinate them. And then I will give Sonia all of the tools and all of the resources necessary to make sure that happens. But we cannot, on one hand, you have legislators that are trying to get rid of what we consider now child pornography. Child pornography is absolutely disgusting and it's illegal, and yet we're providing these kids with pornography. It makes absolutely no sense. And then you have legislators making that little tiny part legal, but we're indoctrinating, we're grooming our kids to think that certain things are acceptable when morals and ethics tell us that they are not. And it's got to stop. It absolutely must stop if we're going to maintain an absolute civilized society where as a parent, we're supposed to be protecting kids. As a cop, kids are my passion. I mean, there's something more emotionally attached to a law enforcement officer when you go to a call involving protecting kids, because kids cannot protect themselves. Our elderly cannot protect themselves sometimes. And so we as humans, as compassionate humans that care about other people, it is my role to protect those people. And when I see parents that are not protecting their kids, or they're abusing their kids, or other people are abusing kids, there is something very, very personal now that we are now enemies, because our role is to protect our kids, not to harm them or provide them anything that could do them harm. And I'm taking that with me to the state, and we will enforce that all around. And I think a lot of my appeal is that I'm just common sense. I'm not this extremist. I truly am not. The people that the left wants to portray me as an extremist. I'm a number one. I'm a dad. I'm a husband first. I'm a dad, and I'm a grandpa, and those are young kids that I have to protect, and I'm going to do everything in my power to protect them. And this notion that teachers and schools can do whatever they want outside of parents, you have to go into reality and say, and especially me, as I was being brought up, the number one rule in my house with my parents was, there are no secrets. You don't keep secrets from your parents. That's how the parents are able to keep you safe. And I was raised that way. I didn't lie to my parents, and I didn't keep secrets. And trade off, I didn't get in trouble for some of the bad behavior that I did, because I was honest about it. And so, but it's that mentality that's what parents are for. And that's what we have to get back to, is making sure that there are no secrets from parents. Kids are parents' responsibility. And our founding fathers knew that government was not supposed to raise our kids. Government should not be responsible for anything. We have to have parental values, and we have to have, if we need to, everybody isn't born to be a good parent. And if we have to have parental training and all of those things, that's okay. I think that should be a part of government to ensure that you don't raise hellions. But it's not that the government takes it away. It's the government gives you the tools to know better on how you're going to raise your kids.
Well, but Newsom thinks that he is their parent because he's created this sanctity state where kids can come here and get surgeries. They can come here and basically go into the foster care system if they want to have abortions and have work done on their bodies to change their gender when they're confused about who they are. So we are a sanctuary state, and we've been defying federal immigration laws here in California, but we've also been inviting and welcoming and taking away from parents these children. So what is your stance, and how are you going to respond as our governor?
So everything that our government is doing right now, everything that Newsom stands for about government controlling this and government mandating this and government this, government that, it is completely opposite of the intent that our founding fathers had for our country and how we have been successful. We have been successful for the last 200 some odd years, not because government ran our lives, but because we've kept government out of our lives. California is failing in every single aspect, and we are one of the most government-controlled and regulated states in the country. It's not because of Californians that we are failing. It is because of our progressive, far-left, socialist, communist, Marxist-leaning people running this state that are causing all of our ills in California. And it's been going on for decades. And I'm not a fan of government. I'm a fan of government doing what we should be doing for the security, the protection, and the ability and the freedom to allow our residents to decide how successful they're going to be. It's not up to government to decide how successful or how much money you're going to make. It's up to your hard work. It's up to your value in yourself, how much you want, how much you're comfortable with, and the sky should always be the limit without government interference. And that's what I'm taking there. In addition to, I will be the only candidate in this race with 32 years of irrefutable proof and a resume that everything about me is honest, character-driven, integrity-driven, and nothing but about service to others. And there won't be anybody else on the ballot that's like that. We have career politicians that have put us in this position. We have celebrities that are trying to make money off book deals. We have other people that are just angry because they lost their business or they weren't able to make enough money. So now they're mad, and so now they're good. They want to be the governor. I don't want to be the governor for any of those reasons. For it's certainly not personal, because this is going to make my life worse. But I'm doing it to make everybody else's life better, my grandkids' life better. It's a sacrifice for me to do this, knowing that I'm sacrificing it to help somebody else. And there will not be one other person on this ballot that will legitimately be able to say that and then have 32 years of proof to say, well, he is who he is, and we should expect the same from him for the next 8 years.
Right. So, and I appreciate that so much. When it comes to minors having access to abortions and to, Planned Parenthood, what will you do to help limit their access, and what will you do to include the parent in that conversation in California?
Yeah, so this is a very touchy subject, and so I am unapologetically pro-life. I am a protector of life, like it or not. California has made it part of our Constitution that abortion here is legal. And the only way to change that is the voters. The voters must change that. As much as you want to hope that me making me governor can change that, it is a physical impossibility. It is a political impossibility for the governor to do anything about changing abortion. The voters have to stand up and say that they want something different, and California has not. So it's part of our Constitution, and the what they will call a right to an abortion is in our state constitution. But here's the thing that I don't agree with. I don't believe it should be state sponsored. I don't believe the state should be paying for it, and I don't believe the state should be encouraging it. It should be up to a decision from a parent or a person if they're an adult, or their kids, if it's a minor that's doing it, and their parents have to actually be involved. There has to be somebody there making a legitimate good decision on the path that they want to take. And I think that if because that is offered, there should also be the same offer of why are you there in the first place? This fear notion and this emotional notion that Republicans, are in favor of incest and someone being forced to have a baby out of incest. That is almost a near never. It's a statistical zero that happens, because the times that it does happen is so few compared to the other numbers. It's statistically zero. But why does a teenager or why does a young adult feel that they have to get an abortion because they can't afford it? Where are we failing in our process with that person, allowing them to make enough money to have a child and support their child or to support themselves? There's so many different things that are going into it. And so government should also have those resources available to help a young person if they need help with rent, to make sure that baby has food or those types of things. But to say that government is in favor and sponsors abortion, I can't say that I agree with that. I'm against abortion. But I also have to say that I am also doing things for what the people want. And I mean, unfortunately for me, I wish we could change everyone's opinion, but the majority of people in this state particularly voted that in, and it's going to have to be up to them to vote it out. But we can still work around that process to make sure that people aren't gravitating toward an abortion and killing their baby instead of adoption or help getting through the process, or just the fact that we can support you as you have this child and support you as a young couple to make sure that you have the ability to earn money to put food on the table or a roof above their head. There's so many other social aspects that our emotions have been used against us to divide us between this topic when we truly can still work together. And I can be, and I already know where you stand on the topic, but I can be 100% pro-life and you can be pro-choice. Why did somehow we came to the conclusion that now we had to be enemies?
Right.
Because that isn't the case. We can have those different opinions, and I can be as passionate about mine being right as yours is passionate about you being right, but that doesn't make us enemies. We can still work to ensure that we're trying to come to a common agreement on how we can help both parties.
Well, Sheriff Bianco, I went to your fundraiser in Norco. I actually brought my 11-year-old son and introduced you to him. I listened to your speech, and I've listened to you today, and I'm not. I guess I am normally a jump the gun kind of girl, but in this instance, because I'm so fed up with this state, I've really taken my time listening to all that you stand for. I've looked into your opponents. The Democrat ones are completely insane. And so I think you have a good chance against them for sure. But I can definitely wholeheartedly and 100% say that you have my full support and endorsement after this conversation. So thank you so much for coming on our podcast. Thank you for your time and for your sacrifice and all you're doing, and all your wife and your children and your grandkids are doing to sacrifice throughout this race. I know, school board's a little bit smaller, so I know it's not the same, but I know it's painful and it's exhausting. And my family and I will be praying for you constantly throughout this entire term. So thank you for being on today.
You're welcome. And I just want to end I want to clarify, and I just want to change something that you just said. While running for the office of governor, and that position may have a lot more, obviously, supervision and control over the entire state, I will be the first one to say that whether it's my election as sheriff or whether it's my election as the governor in that elected official position, there is absolutely no difference of importance between any of those and our school boards. And I encourage all sane people to get involved with school boards, because they've been completely taken over by insane people that truly are out to harm our kids and the indoctrination of our kids. So please don't ever say that was lesser of or not as important, because I'm telling people that don't run for, if you don't want to be the mayor, or if you don't want to be a supervisor, or if you don't want to assembly, all of those things, start at your school board. Go fix your schools, because these kids are in dire need of an adult that actually cares about them. And so I respect you more for doing that than some of my fellow sheriffs. That's just part of our job. So for all you moms out there, there's nothing more important than protecting our kids. And we have to realize that as parents. I raised 4 of them, and they are at school more than they are with us. And it is absolutely important that we are able to trust and be aware of what's happening in our schools while our kids are away from us, and that the people that are educating our kids have the same ethical, moral, and integral values that we are trying to give our kids. Absolutely. And it's very important. So thank you very much, and I appreciate your support in what I'm doing. And I think we're all on the same page of just trying to make things better for not only our kids, but for us, and for our parents, and every Californian in general. And I think that because we have people like you and people like me that are willing to sacrifice ourselves for these positions, I think that everybody's standing up, and they're finally starting to say, yeah, we're gonna make a change, and we're gonna do something different.
Because we need to. We're being called to something, and someone needs to step up, right?
Yes.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much for being on today. And just so grateful for all of you watching our podcast, our Say What podcast here with Protect Our Kids. We have social media. We have X, Facebook, and Instagram, as well as our website, pok.org. Please go check it out. Find the resources. Watch our YouTube videos on how you can be equipped and informed and step out. Do something brave today and go and protect your children and my children. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time.